Okay, I know I'm looking a little messy right now, but I'm feeling called to talk about this, so I suspect not everyone will be able to receive this, but we're gonna do it anyways. I want to talk about how my intuitive and mediumship gifts have been coming online. And this actually started many, many, many years ago, but it is getting quite intense right now, and I want to talk about it. So let me take you on a journey. And I'm just going to tell it like I tell my friends. I'm just going to talk to you like you're my friend, and I'm telling the story. And we're going to see where we get with it. So, the first time that I very clearly had someone who has passed over make contact with me in a way that is so unbelievably undeniable was about 7 years ago. I went through a pretty intense spiritual awakening moment at the end of one of my relationships that really led me into this very strange place where I did not know what was happening to me, or for me, I should say. I was experiencing so much synchronicity that I felt like I was just like on a permanent acid trip, and what rabbit hole did I stumble down to get here? I had to stop working because I was kind of afraid to leave the house. I didn't know when this was going to hit and cause overwhelm in my system, and it felt like the ground would slip out from underneath me, and I spent a lot of time in the shower just letting the water run over me because it was the only thing that just made me feel like I was here and okay. And so for those of you who don't know, synchronicity is basically meaningful coincidence. For me, it plays out in a way where something will come into my awareness just over and over and over and over again until you're like, what is this? Why is everyone talking to me about this? Why is this thing popping up everywhere? Like, it becomes undeniable. It's not something that you're looking for. It's something that is just like boom, 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 boom. And you're just like, okay, like I see you. I can't not see you. I can't unsee you. And at the time, I didn't know what was happening, and so this first part, or maybe all of it, I don't know. For me, it seems very clear, but to tell it to somebody else, I'm sure that it's going to sound kind of vague, because I didn't know what was happening, and a lot of this is still new to me, and I still don't fully know like what's happening or how it works or how to make sense of things. I just know that things end up making sense in a very like awe-inspiring way that really wasn't up to me. So I didn't really keep track of the synchronicities the first time that this happened, because I didn't know what was happening. So I just know that I started getting a lot of stuff about a car crash. And like I said, I don't remember. I'm just going to tell you what the synchronicities are. I can't really tell you because this was 7 years ago and I didn't know what was happening, like where they were coming from or how I arrived at this. So I'm just going to share what I remember. And so yeah, I was getting a lot of stuff about a car crash. I was seeing it everywhere. People were talking about car crashes incessantly to the point where I'm like, am I gonna get in a car crash? Like, what is this a sign? Like, what is happening? I do remember the like final like synchronicity that like really broke me was when I was coming home from somewhere and I stopped at like a gas station, and I was in line to pay for something, and the guy in front of me started talking to the cashier about like this horrible car accident that had happened or something. I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember it being like the final thing that I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck, dude? I started panicking. I left the store. I called my friend, and I'm like telling her, like, I don't know what's going on. Everyone's talking about car crashes. I'm overhearing things about car crashes. I'm reading things about car crashes. Like, obviously this is like a common thing. Car accidents happen, but it was happening. It was coming in at such a rate in such close proximity that it was just like boom, 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 boom. And it's like, am I going to get in a car accident? I really thought that this was going to happen to me. My friend thankfully talked me off a ledge and basically told me that, you know, can't really control everything and you have to get home, so just get in your car and wear your seatbelt and be careful. And yeah, so I drove home. I remember I was getting a lot of stuff about a DJ, the letters DJ, which actually, now that I'm telling this, I'm realizing is significant in another way that I've never thought about before, but we'll get to that. And then I started getting the number 7-Eleven a lot, incessantly. And it was weird because it's like, well, what is 7? Like, the only thing I know, like, the only thing reference I have for 7-Eleven is like the store 7-Eleven, but like, what does that mean? I don't know. So I noticed it. I told a couple of my friends, I was like, I don't know what this 7-Eleven thing is. At some point I remember telling my roommate at the time about it, and we went to go do this job together. I'm pretty sure it was the same day that I had told her about it, and we were sitting across the table from each other, and this song comes on, and it was like some rap song. I don't even know which one it was, and in the song he says something about 7-Eleven, and we both like we're like doing our thing. We both like snap up and like lock eyes from across the table, and I'm like, I told you 7-Eleven. And at some point I had the thought of like, maybe it's a date, like maybe it's July 11th, maybe something's gonna happen on July 11th. And yeah, like I said, I told a couple people, but then I immediately regretted it because I'm like, 7-Eleven is gonna roll around and nothing is gonna happen and I'm gonna look like a crazy person. So yeah, I had all these weird things happening. I'm sure there were more that I don't remember. About a week out from July 11th, I had a dream about a boyfriend who I was with all throughout high school. We were together for 5 years, and he passed away when we were 19. And I had a dream about him. And my friend, the one who had talked me off the ledge initially, was in the dream with me. And so when I woke up, I called her and I was telling her about this dream that I had. And she was like, oh, that's weird. I once had a dream that I knew everything, but I couldn't bring it back with me. And when she said this, it triggered a memory for me that I was like, yeah, actually, I had that dream also. It was a little different, but I remember standing there, and it was like I was in a doorway. It's like I could feel the like door frame, and I was like leaning on it, and it was a room. And it's weird because I feel like the way that the dream happened is different than I remember it. Like, I almost feel like it was like wiped from my memory. Like, I feel like in the dream I could see the people and I could see the room, but in the memory it's like all foggy and white, and I only remember like this like gray, like shadowy like silhouettes of the beings. There was like, it was like the council in front of me, and that was the vibe anyways. And I was able to ask any question, all my questions that I could possibly think of. I could ask all my questions and get all of my answers, but I couldn't bring it back with me. And I don't remember what I asked. I don't remember what I was told, but I remember the feeling of having all of the answers. And it was a feeling of just overwhelming peace. Like when I had all of the information, it was like everything was okay. And it was like, yeah, it makes sense. Everything's okay. And I've held on to that feeling. Whenever I start to panic about life and I don't know what's going on and what is this and why are we here? Just like any existential panic at all, I go back to that feeling of like, okay, you don't know what's going on right now, but when you did know everything, you were at peace. So maybe don't panic so much, right? And I'm realizing that I'm probably telling this story right now, and why I feel called to tell this story, because I am having a moment in my personal life where I'm feeling a little bit scared and lost. And I sat in meditation before I even pressed record on this, and I remember just thinking about like, girl, you have come so far and you have witnessed so much. Don't tell me you're forgetting everything that you've experienced right now just because you're a little scared and you don't know what's about to happen next. So yeah, I think this is a good story for me to be telling right now. And I'm sorry if I'm like talking a little bit erratically and all over the place, because like I said, I'm in a weird place right now with my nervous system. And so we're just gonna roll with this together, okay? So yeah, I remember the feeling of having all of the answers. So I told her about this dream and we got off the phone. And then throughout the week, there were multiple weird happenings kind of in this same vein. I kind of stumbled upon like a YouTube rabbit hole of near-death experiences, and I saw this video where this guy was talking about his near-death experience and how when he died, he was able to meet God and ask all of his questions and get all of his answers, but he couldn't bring it back with him. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, okay. And then July 11th finally rolls around, and that is when I end up meeting my now baby daddy for the first time. We had a long distance kind of phone relationship because he was in the military and he lived in California and I was in Portland, Oregon, Gresham. And he was from here, though. He was from this area. And we had connected online and had been talking for a while. And he was on leave. He came up here on leave for a friend's wedding and decided to come meet me for the first time. And so that's significant. And I told him about all my weird shit that was going on, and he didn't look at me like I was crazy, and in fact he added on to it and provided a lot of valuable information to me at that time. And I felt instantly comfortable with him, and he ended up staying the night. And I woke up the next day on July 11th, and I was laying in the bed and I got on my phone. I got on Facebook, and what popped up in my memories was from July 11th, the previous year. I had posted about that dream. I had written it out, and I was like, I just had the craziest dream. I got to ask all my questions and get all my answers and couldn't remember it, blah, 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 blah. And so I had written it all out, and I'm like, what? Like, this was exactly a year ago, July 11th, that I had this dream. That's crazy in and of itself, and that is only the beginning. So of course I tell him about it, and then my friend ends up calling me because so I believe July 11th, it must have been on a Wednesday, because I was gonna go to Oregon Country Fair, Darling Reunion. If you are not from here, not familiar with that, Oregon Country Fair is like this like super like hippie artsy, like really cool like music, and it's just this really funky like festival kind of thing. And then Darling Reunion is where there's this woman who lives close by to Oregon Country Fair. There's actually a few different people that do this around this area, but hers specifically is called Darling Reunion. She lives close to Oregon Country Fair, and every year a bunch of people from the area or wherever drive onto her property and set up camp and stay there for the weekend. And everybody like decorates their campsites in just like the coolest way. Like there's just all sorts of like cool art installation type stuff and like lights, and like everyone just gets so creative with it. And the vibe is just like nothing I've ever experienced in my entire life. I really felt like I was like transported to like a different planet or a different time, or like just not here on planet Earth in the year that we're in. Because yeah, it was just really beautiful, and everyone was so kind, and there was just so much sharing happening, and like trade and bartering. And actually I'm getting ahead of myself. So everyone camps out on our property, and then they can walk to Oregon Country Fair. So that's where I was going that weekend. I was supposed to leave, I believe I was supposed to leave on Friday initially, and then my friend who I was going with, who lives in that area, because it was about 2 hours away from where I lived, calls me, and she's like, hey, why don't you come up early so that we can get everything like ready and packed in the cars, and then it's like ready to go, and we don't have to rush in the morning. We can get up early and head out. So unbeknownst to me, previously anyways, I ended up leaving for this experience on July 11th. So this was like the kickoff point for what was about to happen. So I leave, and when I'm at my friend's house, I tell her about all the weird stuff that's coming in for me and all that's happening. And beyond what I've already mentioned, I was getting a ton of information around community and like food insecurity, and just the way that our resources in this world are just like misallocated. Is that a word? And different things that we could do to fix that. And how I was having all these ideas about like building a community and stuff. And as I was talking to her, she's like, yeah, you need to go to or Darling Reunion, because that's like literally what you're talking about. So we get up early in the morning and we drive to this grocery store that's kind of close to the thing we're going to, and our entire group of friends, because we're all kind of from all over the place, we all meet at this grocery store, and then we're gonna just drive to the camping area together, like in a little caravan train situation. I really hope I'm not forgetting something, but I'm sure it will come up later. So we get there, and it's a great time, and I had a point where I was high, and it just like hit me like lightning in my brain, and I was like, I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant. And like as I'm having this realization, this like band was like, I don't know, people that were like walking through the pathway, like playing this music, and they were playing that song by Queen, that like Mama Ooh, like in the background, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing it. And I knew it was gonna be a girl, and I started panicking because I'm high, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant, and I'm high, and this could be really bad. And mind you, I had just slept with this guy like 2 days before this. So there was no symptoms, there was no way of like actually knowing this, but I was like suddenly convinced that I was pregnant. And that friend that was with me had to, again, all my friends are just talking me off ledges over here, talking me out of my panic attacks, and then, put me to bed, and it was like, everything's gonna be okay. And I spent the rest of the weekend sober because I was terrified that something bad would happen if I didn't. And at some point, mid-weekend, this guy shows up, and I am immediately just like my attention just shot to him immediately, and I got this kind of like icky feeling inside me, and I'm like, that's weird. Like, he looked familiar immediately. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. I assumed that, well, we're running in the same friend group, so maybe I've just seen him like at a party or something in passing and I just don't remember. Yeah. So at some point, we're all standing around and he introduces himself to me. And I swear to this day, he said, "Hi, my name is Nathan." Okay. Nice to meet you. He was very nice to me the whole time, so I was like, that's weird. I don't know why I got this like super icky feeling from him, because he seems perfectly normal. But I noticed that throughout the night, everyone was calling him by a different name. And I'm like, everyone was calling him Matt. And I'm like, why is everyone calling him Matt? He said his name's Nathan, and those names don't sound anything alike. Yeah, and so as the night went on, I'm like, okay, I guess his name is Matt. I don't know where the fuck I got Nathan from, but that's not his name, clearly. And the whole weekend, it was just like rolling around in my brain, just like Nathan, 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 Nathan. Like every time I was around him, I kept like almost accidentally calling him Nathan. And I kept having to be like, that is not his name. That is not his name. I don't know why you keep wanting to call him that, because that is not his name. So yeah, I just continued the weekend and was like, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what this is. Had a great time. Before we all left, before we were all gonna go our separate ways, we all kind of drove to this like breakfast brunch spot or whatever, and we're all sitting around this table. It's a really long, it's a big group, right? It's a big group, so everybody's not really like talking like together. Like everybody's kind of in their own little like, you know, these few people are talking and these few people are talking and they're having a conversation. So there's a lot of different conversations happening, and I am picking up on just little bits. I'm like overhearing like little things that are like perking my ears up. At one point, a couple of my friends were talking about how when we were all driving to Darling Reunion, when we were pulling out of the grocery store parking lot, they were like trying to keep up with the group, right? Like the group was getting ahead, and they a semi was coming, so they were like had to turn left, right? And so there was a semi coming, and he just pulled out like quickly, instinctively, and they almost got hit by a fucking semi. And of course this like sends my alarm bells off, because I'm like, oh, there's a car accident thing again. But yeah, it's like, okay, heard it, noted, whatever. And then I overhear this Matt guy talking to somebody saying that he was planning to go to Bend the next weekend. So it was just, again, another random thing that I had overheard. I go home, and I don't know if he friended me or if he popped up on my thing as a suggested person or whatever. Somehow I came across his Facebook, and the picture... Okay, that was really weird. My like plug just turned off and the power went out over here, and I had to get up and I went to go like flip the breaker, and it was normal, and then I came back and this switch was flipped on my little plug right here. So that's weird. Anyways, so his picture on his Facebook, I recognized it from a party that I had gone to a year prior. Again, same time frame. In my previous relationship that I was in, I lived in Eugene at that time with that boyfriend, and he had friends in Portland, and I went with him to a party in Portland, this party, and what's weird is that these friend groups have nothing to do with each other. Nope. Like there's no, these are two separate groups in my life. So it's just an interesting crossover, because the group of friends that I was at Darling Reunion with, they were friends that I had made in Bend, Oregon. And then this other friend group was here in Portland. And yeah, so totally different friend groups. I had gone to that party with that boyfriend. They were his friends. They weren't actually my friends. They were his friends. And at one point, this Matt guy just kind of like barges into the party and like takes over the music and like acting like he owns the place. And it was just kind of like weird because it was like, okay, like why, that's like, yeah, why is he coming in here? Like he owns the place. And at one point my boyfriend goes up to him and asks him to play a song because he's taken over the music, and he just fucking laughs in his face. Like it was so rude. And we were like, wow, okay, you're a fucking asshole. And so I think it's so interesting that when I came across him again, even though I like consciously did not remember him, my body remembered him. My body remembered that he was an asshole to me, to my boyfriend, whatever, in the past. Even though I didn't remember that moment at the time. So I was like, that's where I seen him. So yeah, put those pieces together. I was at home for the week and my car broke down, and I was supposed to go to another camp out the following weekend in Bend, Oregon. Another just completely unrelated friend has a clamp out every year where we all go and set up our tents in her backyard, and we just have a nice, fun, spiritual, witchy lady gathering. And I wanted to go. My car was broke down, and I was like, I remember that guy, because he lived where I lived. I was like, he said he was going to Bend this weekend, and he literally has to pass my house to get there. So I messaged him on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I overheard that you were going to Bend this weekend. Would you be willing to give me a ride? And he was like, yeah, it would actually be really nice to have somebody to talk to. It's like a 3-hour drive. So I was like, cool, great. Secured my ride. So the day that he's supposed to come get me rolls around. I called my grandma, who lives in La Pine, because he was going to Bend and I needed to get to Sun River, which was like another 20 minutes. And then my grandma lives in that kind of area. So I called my grandma and I was like, hey, can you come get me in Bend and take me to Sun River and get me the rest of the way there? And she was like, oh, I don't know if I can. DJ's here. And I'm like, what? DJ's there. DJ is my brother, who I have not seen since he was born, and I don't know how old he was at that time, but he was a full human, right? Like, yeah. And that was a very, even though it's my brother, that was a very weird thing to be happening because we don't spend time together. Like, he has a different mom than me, and they kind of live their own life, right? Our families are not really like involved anymore. So I was like, that is the weirdest thing. There's the DJ thing, and that's very out of the ordinary that he would be there. Somehow it ended up being fine, and she was able to come get me. So as I am just getting my last things together for him to come pick me up, the Nathan thing starts rolling around in my brain. It's like, Nathan. And I just drop what I'm doing, and I look up at the ceiling, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who is Nathan? And this voice comes in. It's not audible. It's not something that I can hear like you can hear me talking to you. It comes in my mind so clearly, and it goes, just ask him about it. It's his friend. Or it's his friend, just ask him about it. Something like that. And I'm like, just ask him about it? And it goes, you'll know when. And I'm like, great. Great. He's gonna think I'm fucking crazy. I'll know when? Okay, wonderful. So pack all my shit up. He comes to get me, put it in the car. We're driving, we're vibing, we're talking about music. He's playing with the music. Come to find out, he is a DJ. So that is why he went into the party and started fucking with music immediately. He's a DJ. There's the DJ thing. Okay, got it. Then at some point when we're talking, all of a sudden he like puts his hand in front of me and he's like, shh, you have to be quiet. And so I'm quiet, and we drive through this like curve in the road. And then he goes, that is Silent Rock, I think is what he called it. And two kids, teenagers or whatever, drove off the side there, off the cliff there, and got in a car accident and died there. And so whenever you drive past there, you have to be quiet. And the voice goes, ask him. And I turn to him and I go, does the name Nathan mean anything to you? Do you have a friend named Nathan? Fully expecting him to say no, he goes, yeah, I had a friend named Nathan. He died in a car accident. He was hit by a semi. I could not pick my jaw up off the fucking floor because, like I said, I fully expected this guy to be like, no. And then I was gonna be like, oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. I'm crazy. It's fine. No, that's not what happened. He had a friend named Nathan who died in a car accident. So I tell him the story of how I got here, and he's like, wow, yeah, that's crazy, you know? And that takes up the rest of our driving time. He drops me off. My grandma picks me up. Also, I do want to say that DJ, I think this is really funny. This is what I was realizing earlier, is that my boyfriend, my baby daddy, his middle initials are DJ, and that is his name on Facebook, is DJ, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to tell you the rest of it, but, so yeah, same time, you know, DJ, there was two things happening at that time. So yeah, my grandma comes to pick me up, takes me to my friend's house for this camp out, and, I'm telling my friend about what just happened to me because I am just like in shock and what the fuck. And while I'm telling her about it, this lady who's at the camp out, who I'd never met before, came up and was like, you have a gift. And I'm like, well, thank you, but this has never happened to me before and I don't know what's going on. I spent the rest of the camp out there. It was a great time. She had a moment with my dog, who I had brought there. It was just like this very precious moment that I noticed. I left and I went to my grandparents' house to stay the rest of the week because I was just there for the weekend. This guy who had driven me there was there for the whole week, so I had to kill some time before I could get a ride back home. So I'm at my grandparents' house, also still convinced I'm pregnant. I'm pretty sure my period was late at this point, but my pregnancy test kept coming back negative, so I'm like, okay, this is weird. I remember at one point I went to the store to pick up another pregnancy test, and while I was there, there was this little dream catcher that was like hanging up in the store, and the voice comes in my head and it goes, get it and put it in her room. Get it and put it in her room. And so I bought it and I took a picture of it and I posted it on Instagram with a just very vague little caption just because I wanted it for myself. It was just there for my timeline. And then at some point, I go back to my friend's house that I had done the camping with to just see her one more time before I leave town. And she tells me, she's like, you know, I didn't want to say anything while everyone was here, but that lady who came up and talked to you, her daughter had just passed away 2 months prior, and her name was Ruby. You know who else's name is Ruby? My dog that I had brought with me, who the whole weekend I'm like calling every time she goes out to go potty or whatever. I'm like, Ruby, 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 which also explains why this woman had this very special moment with my dog, because she had just lost her fucking daughter named Ruby. Okay? So then, and then later in the week, my friend calls me, the one who I've talked about previously, who had to talk me off the ledge when I thought I was gonna get a car accident, the one I called when I had the dream. She calls me and she says that she's pregnant. And I'm like, that's weird, because I thought I was pregnant. So after all of this, I'm just chalking it up to like, okay, maybe this is just stuff for everybody else. Was just me weirdly delivering messages or knowing things about other people's shit, and none of it has anything to do with me. So I let go of the fact that I'm pregnant. At some point, I got my period, and it was like, well, okay, I guess I'm not pregnant. So after this, that was it for that period of time, and I went back to my life. Mind you, this is in July when this happens. And all of a sudden I'm getting all of this stuff about Halloween. Halloween keeps coming into my awareness. And I called my boyfriend, who wasn't my boyfriend at the time, my now boyfriend. And he remembers this phone call. I called him and I told him, look, I was like, I know this is like so vague, but I feel like something's gonna happen around Halloween. I don't know what, but something. And that was that. Come to find out, what happened was, this is months later, right? Mind you, this all started in July. I've moved on to other things at this point by the time Halloween rolls around. Well, what happens is he ends up coming into town again for a family thing that he had to be at, that was not previously planned, on Halloween weekend. He comes into town and we end up sleeping together, and I find out 2 weeks later that I'm pregnant. Yep. And it ended up being a girl. And while I was pregnant, I was scrolling through my Instagram back to that post that I had posted on July 23rd, which was my baby's due date. So she didn't end up being born that day, but that was her due date. So I thought that was kind of weird. So I was picking up on all of this exactly a year before she was born. So yeah, I had this really wild experience, and then I became pregnant shortly after, and it got really quiet. I didn't have anything else like that happen. Looking back, I believe that it was because that being a new mom is like overwhelming enough. It feels like it was just kind of like this glimpse into the other side and into definitely what's going on now. And then it got really quiet because it's like, well, it's time for you to just take care of yourself and take care of your baby. And yeah, so that's what I did. And I was lost for a really long time. My body had changed. There was a lot going on, and I don't really need to get into all of that, but for the next 6 years, I didn't have anything like that happen again. And I had wondered for a really long time, I'm like, what was that? Like, why was that just like this one weird one-off thing that never, like, you know, and I had thought all of these things, you know, like I said, I had all this stuff come in about a community. I was like, transitioning my Subaru into like being able to like sleep in the back, because I thought I was going to do the whole van life thing. I thought I was like going on this epic adventure, and which I was, but it wasn't the one I thought it was. And then I got pregnant, and it was like different timeline. So then, where do we want to start this next section? There's been a lot that's happening that I still haven't made sense of. So I'm just going to talk about the little bits that have come together. But mind you, there is a whole lot mixed up in all of this as well that has yet to make sense. So we will see how that goes. It is currently March, or it's about to be March. It's the last day of February. And this all started around September of last year. That, I mean, there was some weird stuff that was going on before that, but this really started to kick off in September, where I was experiencing synchronicity to like a very heavy degree again. And I'm like, okay, something's going on, right? This time I started writing stuff down because I'm like, yeah, I'm keeping track this time. We're keeping a record. I believe it started with a leg amputation. I was getting something about a leg amputation from the knee down. And it was incessant, and it really freaked me out. Because once again, I was making it about me, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Is something gonna happen to me? Am I gonna lose my leg? Like, am I like, should I be preparing for this? Can I prevent this? Like, what is this? It's it was stressing me out for months. For months, this was coming in. And I finally talked to my mentor about it, because thankfully I have a mentor through all of this who is very spiritually in tune. And I'm telling her, like, this is what I'm getting. I don't know what it is. It's really freaking me out. It's literally keeping me up at night. It's like waking me up in the middle of the night. And actually, to backtrack a little bit, for the couple years before this started to kick off, I actually was being woken up quite a bit in the middle of the night with this like really intense feeling of like dread and grief. And mind you, I had lost my grandma not too long ago, and so I just chalked it up to grief, and I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to look at it, and so I would just take a Xanax and go to sleep. So there actually was some stuff that was building up to this, but I didn't understand what it was. I was avoiding it, and I was scared of it, and it felt like some weird black hole thing that was gonna suck me up away from my body, and I would never come back. And so I'd have to wake up my boyfriend and be like, I'm scared, hold my hand, take a Xanax, go back to sleep. So, yeah, it started to come in like that. So my mentor tells me, she's like, okay, why don't you go, like, sit with it and ask about it, and ask if it's about you. And so I did. I came in my little meditation room that I'm in here, and I sat with it, and I tried to ask if it was about me. And my nervous system was so activated that I could not hear any sort of intuitive message coming in at all, because I was so worried that it was about me, that I didn't want to hear the answer. Because if it's yes, do I really want to know that? If it's something that I can't prevent, like, what's the point of knowing right now so that I can stress about it until it happens? Yeah, my nervous system was so activated that I couldn't hear it, and so I just ignored it. I just ignored it, and it kept coming in, and it kept bugging me, and it kept driving me crazy, and I just kept ignoring it because I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what it is. And then at some point, I was working. I do nails for a living currently. And I was working with someone, and I actually got like a little snippet, which is interesting because I had to put boundaries around my workspace, because I started to get at the last January, some stuff. I started getting really intense overwhelm, and I thought it was because of the medication that I was on at the time. I was taking a GLP-1, and it was like kind of weird, and I thought like, oh, maybe it's making me feel weird. However, when I got off of it, I was still feeling this way. So looking back, and having talked to my mentor, we're pretty sure that it was overwhelm coming from like the energy that I was picking up from my clients, because looking back, I was noticing that it was happening a lot right before I started work. It was like I would be fine all morning, and then it would hit right before my clients were going to get here, and I would like start to go into this panic, and I felt like really like kind of disassociated, and like everything was really bright, and like I'm like, ooh, like I don't feel so good. I almost feel like I might like faint or something. I even had to like reschedule I think 2 people, because I was like, I don't feel very good, and I don't want to pass out while I'm doing your nails, and I do not do that. I power through, because I don't like having to reschedule people. I like my time off. And money. So at one point my mentor did tell me, she was like, okay, you need to put boundaries around your work time with whatever is trying to communicate with you. You need to say that like, you cannot talk to me during this time. I am here to do a job that is not this, right? These people are paying me to do their nails. They're not paying me to read their energy. They're not paying me to talk to their dead loved ones. This is not consensual, right? So you need to put boundaries around your work time, and then you need to set up actual space and time in your life for these things to come to you, because otherwise they're going to continue to, if something's coming online, especially if you asked for it, which I did because I want to know things, and I'm obsessed with death and life, and what are we, and what is this, and what is reality, right? So you go asking questions, the universe is going to try and answer them. And if you don't make space for those things to come online, then they interrupt you at very inconvenient times. So that's what I did. I set up, okay, you cannot talk to me while I'm working. I need to do nails. I can't talk to you right now. And I set up in the morning, I have my whole morning routine. I call it my spiritual office hours. And I come and I sit in here and I just listen. And this is when I get my information. And then I go about my day. And ever since I started doing that, it got way better. But then, as I was working on somebody in there, a little thing slipped through. And it was like brother, somebody's brother, like a brother, like it was just swirling around in my head, just like that Nathan thing. And I was like, okay. So then I talked to Demetrius afterwards, which I also thought was interesting because while I was working, his friend who is like a brother, he's known him his whole life, actually came to the house, pulled up, and his car was in the driveway, and he was in here hanging out. And so I'm like, okay, is that like a thing? Are we talking about, like, there was some other stuff going on too that I'm like, is it like, because it said like a brother too, and I'm like, is it like does it have something to do with one of these other situations? I was kind of trying to put the pieces together, but I wasn't really sure what it was. So after I was done working with that client, I went to Demetrius and I was like, I don't know what this is, but something about somebody's brother, like a brother. That's all I got. And then at some point I started to get stuff about the color blue and blue hair, and I thought maybe I'll put blue in my hair, because once again, it's always about me, right? I started getting on Pinterest and looking at different ways that I could put blue in my hair, because I had just started to like do my hair. I hadn't done my hair for years, and I had just started doing like, you know, putting bleach and color and shit in my hair. And so I was like, oh, maybe that'll be fun. I'll like put color in my hair. I'll put blue in my hair. And I was saving all these pictures, and some time went by with that. And then I remember we were leaving, my boyfriend and I were leaving breakfast at one point, and I saw this girl with bright orange hair that was like super cute, but it like hit me that I was like, I actually don't think I want to put like colors in my hair like that, because my style changes too much, my mood changes too much. Like, I know that I'm gonna love it for like a week, and then I'm gonna hate it, and I'm gonna want to change it to something else. And I already did this phase, okay? I already did the colorful hair thing when I was in beauty school, and it's a lot of work and upkeep and money, and it fries my hair, and I'm just really not interested in doing all of that. So I was like, it's not for me. The blue hair is not for me. So I had all these pieces, didn't know what they were. And then the leg amputation thing continued to come in this whole time, keeping me up at night, stressing me the fuck out. And the last couple synchronicities with it I remember were, I went to take my daughter to gymnastics, and while I was sitting there, this man was sitting next to me, and he had a prosthetic leg from the knee down. And I noticed it. I'm like, yep, there's that. And then the next morning, so less than 24 hours later, my client / friend comes in to get her nails done, and she's, you know, I'm asking her how she's been, and she's like, oh man, my Christmas has been so crazy. My brother is in the hospital. He's diabetic, and he hasn't been taking care of himself. He got a cut on his foot, and they're gonna have to amputate his foot, and they think they're gonna have to amputate it up to his knee. And at the time, I didn't even clock that she said her brother, because I was so stressed out about the leg amputation part that was what took over my brain. And I'm like, oh my God, here it is again. I don't know what this is. And then within a few days, my friend comes over here, and I bring her in this room because I just wanted to, I don't know, it was like a feeling. I was like, I feel like I need to talk to her like uninterrupted. I don't want my daughter like coming in and like interrupting things, and it just felt like we needed our space. So like that. So we're in here and we're talking, and she's telling me about like how and we've had a lot of weird stuff, like our lives have been kind of coinciding a lot at this point, going through very similar things. She's telling me about, so it was already weird, right, with her, and she's telling me about, you know, how her relationship isn't going so well, and she's like worried about needing to find a place to stay. She had some prospects or whatever. She wasn't telling me this, like she wasn't asking me for a place to stay. She was just telling me what was going on. And you know, I am pretty reluctant to let people stay with me, because I have let people stay with me a lot in my life. Our house has been like, ever since I've been with my boyfriend, our house has basically just been like this revolving door of people going in and out, and most of them have caused us a lot of stress. And so I'm just really not quick to offer people a place to stay anymore. And so I basically told her, I was like, well, you're not gonna be homeless. Like, you can't live here, but you can come here if nothing works out, you know? And we're like kind of new friends again. Like, we've known each other since like middle school, but we didn't really like, we had very brief encounters. And so it was also kind of just not like totally my place to, it was a little weird for me to offer that to her at that point. And she was also kind of not wanting to accept it at that point. So, we're sitting here talking about our lives, and I go ahead and update her on all of the weird stuff that's going on in my life, because beyond what I've just told you, there's a whole mess of synchronicity and other weird things going on also. It's just a lot. It's a lot. I'm like kind of losing it again, and I'm really having to stay grounded and make sure I take my time for myself, and I'm really listening, and yeah, so a lot going on. I tell her all about it. And then at the very end, the very last thing I say to her, because I almost didn't say it, but I told her the whole story. I told her the whole Nathan story. I told her everything. And I just came out. Like, we were literally getting up off the floor to leave for her to go home. And I was like, you know what is another really weird synchronicity that I'm getting? And I don't know what this is, but I keep getting something about a leg amputation, about somebody losing their leg from the knee down. And I don't know what it is, but it's keeping me up at night. And she goes, oh, that's really weird, because that's how my brother died. That's how my brother died. And I tell her, I was like, oh, as she's telling me this, that's how her brother died, and I'm looking at her with my eyes, and I'm like, you have blue hair. You have blue hair. You're telling me your brother died from a leg amputation, and you have blue fucking hair. It's you. It's you. That's who this belongs to. And I just had this like relief wash over me, because I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry about your brother, but I'm not gonna lose my leg. This is yours. This is yours. And I tell her about everything. I told her about the guy at gymnastics, and how my client came here and was telling me about her brother, and she was like, yeah, that's literally the exact thing that happened to my brother. He was diabetic. He wasn't taking very good care of himself. He got a cut somewhere, and it got infected, and they had to take the foot off, and then it kept spreading, and they had to take it up off to his knee, and that's how he died. So it was literally the exact same story. And then later I come to find, because I didn't tell her like a brother, because I didn't want to be wrong. I was second guessing myself. Come to find out later on, she tells me, just in passing, wasn't even talking about this anymore, that her brother was actually her uncle, because she was raised by her grandmother, and they were raised together. So it's her brother. That's the relationship they have. It's brother and sister, but it's actually her uncle. So, brother, like a brother. I don't know why I second guess myself anymore. So yeah, that was crazy. Some time goes on, and there's some stuff going on with like my living situation and my stuff. Everything's fine, but like there's just a lot of change happening, a lot of ways that people are growing. We're playing with different ideas of how we want to live and exist, and I was thinking about our living situation and trying to figure out like who I was gonna bring in for this potential idea that we had. And she kept coming back to me. Her name just kept popping into my brain over and over again. And I'm like talking to spirit, and I'm like, it's not her. She already told me she can't afford it, because we had this whole conversation about how she can't afford to live on her own. Some friend had offered her a room for $1,000, and she told me she couldn't afford that. And so I'm like, okay, like, I don't know why it keeps rolling around in my brain, because as the solution, because she told me she can't afford it. Well, eventually I kind of just hit this point where I was like, I messaged her. She was continuing to update me about the things that were going on in her life, and it just kept rolling around in my brain. And I was like, you know what? I can't stop thinking about this thing with your brother and what you've been telling me. And I feel like you're supposed to be here. Actually, I feel like you're supposed to be here. Um, so she is now here with me. And it has been one of the best decisions I've ever made for a number of reasons. And we don't need to get into all that, but just to kind of like add to that story a little bit, because there's more. There's more. There's more I want to tell you. So I went back to my mentor and I was like, hey, remember how I told you I was getting that thing about a leg amputation and I didn't know what it was? And you told me to go ask about it, and I did, and my nervous system was so activated that I couldn't hear the answer. So I ignored it, and it turns out this is what happened. And she was like, yeah, I can understand why you were triggered by that, because that's some pretty gruesome imagery, and yeah, that's a reasonable thing to be freaked out about. And I was trying to make sense of all of this, right? And she basically told me, she was like, just a little tidbit for anybody that maybe is experiencing anything like this. She told me, she was like, what you need to understand about synchronicity and when these things are coming to you in your external reality, right? Whatever force is in charge of this, whatever thing is trying to communicate with you, you have to recognize that it is an intelligent thing, right? Far more intelligent than you are. So intelligent that without you having to do anything, without you knowing anything about what was going on or being able to make sense of this, it was So the next little chapter in this, the final installment, and I'm sure I will have more in the future, around the same time that the leg amputation thing was coming in, I was also getting something about a wheelchair, which I just kind of lumped those two together. I just assumed that. There was nothing that made me like, that told me that those things go together, other than my brain was just like, yeah, okay, maybe if you are missing a leg, you might need a wheelchair. So I had put those two together. And then I started getting something about a big man. And I was also going through some stuff like with my brother at the time, who was struggling with his weight, and I gave him the rest. Like I said, I was on a GLP-1 and I wasn't on it anymore, wasn't gonna be on it. I gave it to him to try. And so at the time I was like, okay, maybe it was just kind of like a nudge to like help him out with that. I don't know. I was getting something about a big man. And then I started getting stuff about red hair, orange, the color orange, ginger, like somebody's got red hair, right? At the time I started thinking about like, who do I know that's like a bigger man that has red hair? And the only person I could think of that I know, who I'm not even, like, I don't even really have a relationship with this person anymore. His name's Michael, but he is, my boyfriend is friends with him, and the person who this ends up being for is also friends with him. So I was just like, yeah, if it's for him, I don't really know like what I'm supposed to do with that, because I don't really hang out with him. I don't talk to him. So tucked that in my back pocket. I was getting stuff about a shaved head, but then I started getting stuff about so much hair. And I'm like, that's weird. Like shaved head, but so much hair. Like, okay, that doesn't make sense. I was getting a lot of Disney references, which in my brain was like, yeah, I want to go to Disneyland. We were going pretty frequently there for a while, but we've been trying to save money and pay off debt. And so it was like, oh, maybe it's time for another Disney trip. Again, making things about myself that aren't about me. Tucked that in my back pocket. I was getting a lot of references to someone being gay and potentially gay, like coming out later in life. So much so that I sat down with my own boyfriend and was like, because I was also getting stuff about a lavender marriage, and we're like engaged or whatever. And so I sat down with him at one point and I was like, do you ever question your sexuality? And he's like, no. I'm like, not even a little bit? Like, you sure you never just like think about it at all? And he's like, no, definitely not. Definitely not. And we sat and talked about it. And I'm like, okay, he seems to be pretty sure that he is solid in the sexuality that he's in, and it's not gay, right? He's not questioning that at all. So another thing that I just kind of chalked up to, I don't know what it means. I also had been getting a mix of different locations over time. One of which was Hawaii. And actually, you know what? Throwback. Sorry, I told you this story was gonna be all over the place. I let my friend, when she was here, I let her look through my list because I had been writing all these things down. And I had written out Texas, David, James. And she was reading the list and she was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I wrote Hispanic down underneath it. She's like, there's this guy that I like kind of have this like little thing on social media with, and his name's David James. It's like not anything. We just kind of like comment on each other's stuff, or like maybe they had sent some stuff back and forth. It was not, she had never met him in person, nothing. And after she read that, she was like, I feel like I maybe should reach out to him or something. Now they're dating. And he lived in Texas. He's from Texas, and his children are half Hispanic. He's not Hispanic, but his kids are half Hispanic. So we thought that was really interesting how that played out. One of the other locations was Hawaii. And then separately from all of that, because those came in early on, right? I started writing shit down. So I remind you, this started happening in September. I finally started writing things down in November because they were just piling up. And I have it in a note in my phone, and I have the date of when things finally kind of click, where I'm like, okay, that's a thing. I'm gonna write it down. It has to come in quite a lot. It's like not something, usually as it's happening, you don't notice it right away because you're not really like, you're just living your life. It's like you don't know what means what, and so a synchronicity doesn't really become a synchronicity for me until it's popped up 3, 4, 5 times in a very short period of time, right? I'm not talking about like, oh, someone talked to me about a car crash a couple months ago, and now someone's talking to me about a car crash now, and then no, it's like, no, this came up like 3 times today. This came up 5 times in the last couple days. This is some, yeah, it like comes in incessantly enough in a short enough period that it's weird. So yeah, I had gotten these locations pretty early on in all of this. And then, oh my God, DJ, David James. That's weird. So, sidetracked, squirrel. Oh, okay. And then I started getting stuff about like 2 weddings, which mind you, I'm engaged to somebody, and I'm like, making it about myself again. Like, am I gonna? Well, and honestly, we did talk about having 2 weddings because we had talked about going to Vegas and getting married there, and then maybe coming back and doing something here for the people that couldn't go. And so people were kind of questioning me about like, hey, is this happening? Like, things were kind of getting delayed because we're having like other things that our money needs to go to right now besides a wedding. And so I thought like, oh, maybe we are going to have 2 weddings. Maybe we're, yeah, again, bringing it back to myself. And then I started getting a lot of stuff about the garage. Sorry, having realizations once again in real time. Which I had eventually chalked up to potentially my grandmother, because I had a dream that I was getting into the garage. There was a lot of other stuff going on, but the main part that I remember is that I had opened the garage and there was an ambulance in the garage, and it was taking up the whole garage, so that I like couldn't get around it or whatever. And my grandma had a heart attack in the garage of her house, and the ambulance had to come get her from there. So then I was like, maybe this one has to do with me, because that does apply to someone who I have lost. So yeah, I have all these pieces just floating around. I don't know who they belong to. I don't know what goes with what. I don't know, because there was a little bit of overlap too between people. And so I couldn't quite make sense of what was what. And then I got a name of someone that I know, which I'm not going to share because she asked me not to. And once that came in, I knew who we were talking about, because I have a friend slash client, and her dad passed. And so once her name came in, and I'm looking at all these pieces I got on the table here, I'm like, it's her dad. It's 100% her dad. And I went to her Facebook to go look at the pictures of him. I've never met him, but she's been my client for a very long time. She's kind of become more like a friend now. I've known her since, again, another person I've known since middle school. But we really didn't spend a lot of time together until, she became my client, and she's been my client for years. And so I've been here witnessing so much of her life. When her dad passed, she is now very pregnant. After having a lot of trouble with that, they had tried a lot of things. They were struggling to have a baby. They had tried naturally for a really long time. And then tried some other treatment that I can't remember what it was called, didn't really have like the highest chance of success, and then finally resorted to IVF. So it's been a long road and a lot of money to get this baby, right? And she's now about to have. And so yeah, I was looking at her Facebook to kind of just like remind myself of like what he looked like, and then I realized, because I kind of had forgotten certain things. I had enough pieces that I was like, I could pinpoint who this was, but then when I went to her page, it was like things started to click in even more, where I remembered that he was a bigger man and that he had red hair. I didn't remember that he actually had a shaved head and a very full beard. And so I was like, shaved head, a lot of hair. And I knew that he was gay and that he had had a lavender marriage with her mom, obviously, because she was born. So her mom and her dad, when they were together, that would have been a lavender marriage. I'm like, and for those of you who don't know what a lavender marriage is, and sorry if I butcher this definition, from my understanding, it is basically a marriage between two people, one or both of which are two people of the opposite sex, and one or both of them are actually gay, and people do this for various reasons, which we don't need to get into. So the point is that he was gay, and he came out later in life. He had been with her mom up until a certain point, and then split apart and had a partner and lived his life, right? And then as I was scrolling through her pictures, because she had a post with all these different pictures of him pretty close up. I didn't have to dig very far on her timeline. And there was a picture of them in Disneyland. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. She had told me because she was my client when I had went to Disneyland previously, and we had talked about it. And she had said that her and her dad had gone to Disneyland together. That was like a thing. And I knew that, he was in a wheelchair. And then I also realized that they had two weddings. My friend, her and her husband had gotten married in Hawaii, and then they had come back here and had a second wedding here for the people that couldn't go there. So then I had put that piece together, and I was starting to realize, like, oh my God, because I think initially I just had like a bigger man with red hair, wheelchair, like I hadn't quite clicked all the pieces together until I went and was like, oh my God, the shaved head, oh, Disney, oh, that's right, like the weddings, two weddings, and then the garage thing, which actually I think the garage thing applies to multiple things, because something I'm starting to notice about the things that are coming in, there's a lot of overlap and similarities between the people and the timing, and also my personal life. And so the way that this comes in is really just like, it's very tangled, and like this applies to multiple things. And I'm realizing that the garage thing actually applies to myself, and also to my friend with the blue hair, which I will have to tell her about, that I'm making this connection. Along with the DJ thing, you see how this is working? Well, I remember she had told me that her dad was like kind of a hoarder, and that when he passed, he had multiple storage units that she had to go clean out afterwards, and that was hard for her, and it was a big task. So I put all of it together. I know who it belongs to. When I put it together, I had realized that she was about to come in here in 2 days to get her nails done. And I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do with this? Like, I don't have anything to give to her with this, right? The day before she was coming in, I actually sat with my boyfriend and I was like, I realized who it was. Because I tell him everything as it's coming in. He gets to witness this in real time, which is, thank God I have somebody that's like a witness, right? Because when I'm telling the story, like, for you, this could all be bullshit. Like, you don't know. But for him, it's nice because he gets to see the pieces as I'm getting them. I'm like, I'm getting something about someone's brother. I'm getting blue hair. I'm getting this. You know, it's like he gets to see me getting the pieces, and then he gets to see me put them together. And I'm like, yeah, like now he's like completely unfazed by it. I'll come to him, I'll be like, oh my God, you know what's so weird? Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, it's a random fucking Tuesday. So... So I had put all these pieces together and I realized who they went to, but I was like, I don't have anything for her. Like, the first time this happened with the Nathan thing, I didn't know what the fuck was going on, and that came together without anything. I was just as surprised as anybody else. And then the second time it came in, this happened with my friend, I kind of knew it was happening, but I didn't know like who we were talking about. I didn't know who it applied to. And then that was also kind of like orchestrated by the universe. And I just stumbled into that interaction. Now we have something where I have figured out what goes where, with who, but I don't have anything that like is a shock to her, right? It's like with the other ones, it's like the first one, I didn't even know that guy. I didn't know his friend. The second time, I know my friend, but I didn't even know she had a brother. Like I said, it's like we hadn't really actually spent a ton of time together at this point. Like, I didn't know she had a brother. I didn't know that he passed. I didn't know any of this. And so in those interactions, I had things that there's no way I could have known. Whereas with this interaction, it was like, well, yeah, I only was able to put it together because I knew what this person looked like and I was able to make that connection because I know this person and we've had all these conversations. So it was like, what am I gonna do? Go like talk to her and be like, yeah, here's all these things about your dad that like I already knew, you know? So I decided I was gonna sit with it. The morning of, which funny enough, my schedule actually got cleared this day. I was supposed to have another client before her and it got moved. And so I ended up having the whole day free up until her nail appointment. And I came in here in my little meditation room and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit with this. And I'm going to have my spirit office hours. And if you have something for me, great, I will give it to her, but otherwise I just don't feel like I can like have this conversation with her and bring this all up when I really don't have anything spectacular to give her. So I came in here and sat with it, and I set my timer for 20 minutes, which was a fucking joke, and I knew it at the time when I said it. I was like, bitch, you're gonna need 20 minutes just to settle into this. Like, what are you even talking about? But I just had to put some boundaries around it, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna set my timer for 20 minutes, and whatever I get in this time, we'll just see what happens. Well, what ended up happening is that my own stuff kind of kept taking my mind off track. I kept getting distracted with my own shit, and I had to like keep coming back. And so the 20 minutes goes by, the timer goes off, I don't get anything about my friend's dad. And so I kind of just go off on my own normal routine, my own normal morning routine where I just get information for myself and for my day and whatever. Pull some cards or journal or whatever it is that I need for each day is what I do in here. And then at the very end, I was pretty much done. I was like on my phone. I wasn't even like doing anything special at that time. I was wasting time is what I was doing, before I needed to get up and go get ready. And it started to come in. The message started to come in. I had to actually put my phone down because I'm like, okay, it's like I get this like feeling where it's like I almost can't pay attention to what I'm doing anymore because there's like something. It's almost like when someone's trying to talk to you while you're trying to do something and you're like, I can't do both of these things. So I put my phone down and I started listening, and what I got was, you don't need to have anything spectacular for her. You don't need to have anything that you don't know. Because this is not about you being the person or the thing that connects her to her loved one, right? All I need you to do is tell her the story. She already knows the Nathan thing. I had already told her about that story a long time ago. So update her on what has happened since then, and then just remind her that she has her own connection with her father. She doesn't need you to do that, right? And I started thinking about the fact that she's about to have a baby. She's probably about to spend a lot of time in the quiet with her baby, alone, and probably going to be grieving her dad, because this is someone that you want around when you have a baby, right? And I know that she has had a lot of grief, and that it has affected her, that it affected her journey in trying to get pregnant. You know, she was actively trying to get pregnant while also in the grieving process. And so I started thinking about how, like, yeah, this is going to be a time for her. And so just remind her that in those moments, in the quiet, that one, it is okay to let grief and joy exist together. It is okay that you feel both of these things. Don't let grief steal your joy and your happiness in this moment. It's okay to feel joy and happiness around your new baby. It's a really exciting thing, right? And it's okay if in the midst of this time that you feel like you should be just happy, you grieve your dad, right? Remind her that that is all okay, and also just remind her that in those moments she can talk to her dad, that he is there. It's just a reminder. Just throw it out there and give that to her, to remind her that she's got that, and she can turn to that relationship whenever she wants. And I started crying in all of this because I could just feel the love coming in with this message, and I was like, okay, I got it. I have my message. As I'm doing her nails, I am so nervous. I had decided ahead of time, I was like, I am not going to try and talk about this while I'm doing her nails, because just like, as maybe you're noticing while I'm telling this, maybe not, I don't know, is that when I tell these stories, I get like so ungrounded and I start to feel kind of weird. I feel like my system is still kind of adjusting to a lot of this stuff. And while I'm trying to do nails, like I'm trying to concentrate on this thing, it's really hard for me to do both. So I already told myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to do her nails first, and then I'm going to ask her if she has time to sit and talk about this thing, and then we're going to talk about it if she wants to. Well, funny enough, as I'm like literally fucking top coating, she starts talking about Michael and something about her. I think she even said something about her dad. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So I was like, well, it's funny that you should say that, because actually I really wanted to talk to you about something that has to do with those things. Are you in a rush to get out of here? Can you talk about something? And she decided to stay, and I told her about the most recent thing. I retold her the Nathan story, because she did remember that I had told her, but she didn't really remember all the details. And so we went way back in the time machine, and I told her about the Nathan story, and then I told her about my friend with her brother. And then as I was telling her about the most recent one, with the brother and the leg amputation and the diabetes and stuff, she started crying because she knew where this was going, because there were some things that I actually did not know that I ended up discovering in this interaction with her. So I began telling her about the stuff that I was getting, and I was like, I don't have anything like crazy for you, but these are the things that were coming in for me. And then I told her the message that I had received this morning, and it was such a beautiful moment. I got to the end, and I also showed her my list, just like I had done with my friend prior. I was like, here's my list of all of the things, not just the things I know to be your dad. Maybe you can point some stuff out on here. So when I got to the end of that, she was like, okay, can I talk now? Like, can I make some connections for you? I'm like, yes please do. So she confirmed with me that her parents had been married, because I actually didn't know if they were married. I knew that they obviously had her, but she said yes, they were married, and actually her mom used to complain all the time about the garage being like full of stuff because he was a hoarder. So not only did she have all these storage units that she had to clean out after he died, that was also like an ongoing problem in her parents' marriage, was the garage. And then one of the other locations actually that I had on my list was LA, and she said that her dad used to live in LA. That's why they went to Disneyland all the time, because he lived there and you can get like the local passes or whatever. And so that was a thing that they did. She also noticed on my list that I had written down Care Bears. I had gotten a synchronicity about Care Bears, or she said, hold on, no. I was flipping through it and she was like, I think I saw something about like rainbow bears on there or something about bears. And I was like, no, it says Care Bears, but Care Bears are rainbow bears, actually. And I had gotten this synchronicity about Care Bears a while back that I had no idea. I know what Care Bears are, but I had no connection with those. So they were just sitting on my list. And it's so funny the way that these come in, because sometimes it is so literal and I make it into something that is so much more complicated. Because when Care Bears came in, I was sitting there kind of thinking like, okay, what are Care Bears? Why would Care Bears be special? And I was like, okay, well, they're like these magical bears and they all have these little symbols on their tummy of their like special powers. They all have their own little special gift that they all use together to like save the earth or whatever. I didn't watch it, okay? I actually had to look it up to get some of this information. And so I was thinking, oh, like maybe it's just like a metaphor for just like, like my little community and how we all have our own little special gifts and whatever, So I just kept it on the list. But she was like, well, he was gay and he was known as a bear. She was like, and you said so much hair, like, yeah, he was bald, but not only did he have his beard, he was very hairy, like he was covered in hair, and in the gay community he was known as a bear. So rainbow bear, so close yet so far away, right? And then she also told me, this is why she started tearing up when I was talking about the diabetes and the leg amputation, is because he also had diabetes. And when he was at her wedding, he was in a wheelchair in Hawaii. And I didn't notice this, but she showed me in the picture, he only had one shoe on because he had to have his toe amputated because he had gotten like a cut or something on his toe and it had gotten infected. And he had his toe removed and it was still bothering him, and it was likely gonna lead to amputating further up. Yeah. And then the one that I am still shocked by, because I did not know this. This is information I did not have, and she filled it in for me. Somehow we got on to talking about this, and I don't remember what it was that triggered it, but I had been getting so much like sports references in my synchronicities and in my intuition, and I had actually gone to Demetrius probably a week or two prior to this meeting with her, and I was like, I don't know why they keep talking to me in sports references, because like I don't know who the fuck they think they're talking to, but I am not a sports person. I don't even know what these things mean. When they come in, I have to go get on my phone and look it up, because I was getting like around like November, December, when I first started writing stuff down, I started getting a bunch of stuff about Hail Mary, a Hail Mary pass or whatever, and I had to look it up. What is a Hail Mary? And if you don't know what that means, that's okay, because I'm going to explain it. And then I got a fever pitch, right? So not only was I just getting a lot of like basketball, baseball, football, like I was just getting a lot of just like sports, right? And then I had these two specific sports references that I actually had to get on my phone and look up, because I don't know what they mean. And so, yeah, I was like talking to Demetrius and I'm like, I don't know what this is. That's weird, like, and it's hard to tell sometimes when synchronicities are like for me or about me, about my life, and when they're shit like this, right? So a lot of times I will kind of automatically try and apply them to my life, and then I realize that they're not about me. So come to find out, her dad was a sports journalist. Her dad was a sports journalist, which I did not know. So that one blew my mind. And then also, sorry, I mentioned earlier about how like when I had first got the like bigger man with red hair and who I thought of Michael. And when I was looking on her Facebook, and I was reading through the comments about her dad, I realized that everyone was calling him Mike because his name was Michael. Or I think that was his middle name and they called him Mike or something. They were calling him Mike. And I'm like, that's so funny that my brain went straight to Michael, and that it was a different Michael, but that was still his name, right? So, so I told her all of this, and it was just like, it was a very emotional moment, and it was so meaningful, and it was so special, and it really changed me a lot too. Like, I ended that, I had purposely worn, after I'd had my little meditation in the morning, and I was thinking about this particular person that I am delivering a message for, I put on like this bright neon pink sweatshirt that I had, and I like put glitter on my face, and I was like, I am going to be the most flamboyant that I can fucking be in celebration of this person who did not get to live their life like that. And I had this really beautiful, special moment with this person that actually brought so much joy. It was emotional, but it was like a good emotional, and then I ended the day and I went upstairs to like take a shower and decompress from all of this. And I was like, wow, this thing that was waking me up in the middle of the night and filling me with dread and that I was so scared of is turning out to be just the most wonderful gift. Like, when we think about death, it's so dark, right? The way that we look at it in our culture, it's so dark. And here I am wearing this bright ass fucking pink sweatshirt and all this glitter, and I'm delivering messages of love that connect people with the people that they miss and they care about. And it's like such a special moment. And it's like I'm realizing that my relationship with death is changing, and that working with death is not as scary as I made it out to be, especially when we're talking about people that are in my life and the people that they care about, and that we're sharing messages of love, And so I had a moment afterwards where it really it felt so powerful to me that because this was also the second time that I had actually had a really intense kind of intuitive session with someone where I was wearing this sweatshirt too. And I was like, and it wasn't on purpose that this happened. And I was like, it's so funny that I find myself wearing this every time I do these kinds of things, because it's like, yeah, it's like I said, it's like we make death to be this really dark thing, or like intuitive gifts. We're so fearful of them when they first come online. A lot of people avoid exploring these sorts of things. But the way that it's coming for me is like, it just feels like this vibrant, alive thing filled with love, And so I'm just like, wow, how the vibe has changed for me, how the perspective of this has changed for me. And I'm actually so enjoying this experience, and I feel so honored to be a part of it with these people and to be communicated with like this, through intuition and through my life and through spirit. And it's like, it's completely changed my life. I lost somebody, like I said at the beginning of this story, very early in my life, someone that I was very close with, my boyfriend of 5 years I had lost when we were 19, and from then on I had this really weird relationship with death, and it was just, I was just hitting this like full circle moment, like I don't even want to say, like, oh my God, so many years later, 15 years later, something like 14, 15 years later, where I'm like, wow, it's so powerful. And then on top of that, to really bring it on home, another sports reference, so I had just told her like sports references, right? I didn't even give her the specific ones that I had got, but I was thinking about it later of like the specific sports references that I got and her whole journey. And I'm like, oh, these are hers too. I then had to text her afterwards because I was like, actually, I need to say this. So when I looked up, what is a Hail Mary? It says, in slang, a Hail Mary refers to a desperate last-ditch effort with a very low probability of success. Borrowed from the Catholic prayer and famously used in American football for a long game-winning pass, it's a high-risk, high-reward gamble like a Hail Mary pass in football, but now used metaphorically in business, personal life, or situations where you're out of conventional options and hoping for a miracle. It then goes to say, last-ditch effort, an attempt made when all other options have failed, hoping for an extraordinary outcome. High-risk gamble, an action with little chance of working but could yield huge rewards if it does. Hopeful desperation, relying on something outside normal logic or skill to succeed, much like praying for divine intervention. Does that not sound like her pregnancy journey? We tried this and we tried this and we tried this, and we've spent all this money, and this is it. If this doesn't work, we're done, right? We're not having kids, or we're adopting, or whatever. It was like that's literally where they were in their journey when they got pregnant. And then the second one, fever pitch, when you look up fever pitch, it says a state of extreme excitement. Tell me that is not her father expressing extreme excitement for her baby coming. I can't make this shit up. I'm not that creative, guys. So, that's my story. Probably more to come. I'm tired. I've been talking for a long time. I have other shit to get done. I'm sure I forgot things, but I just felt like I needed to share that. So, thank you, and you're welcome. Love you, bye!